It's Fully Threaded Radio, episode 179.
I think there's a big difference between a local distributor getting bought out by a big company, because it's pretty easy for a salesman to decide, hey, I don't want to work for a big company, put up their own shingle and start their own business. These master distributors consolidating, I think, I don't think it's going to affect us as much as some people think, but I think a whole lot of people are thinking, okay, here we go again.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. This is the online, on-demand, predominantly fastener-related talk radio podcast. And you guessed what the subject matter is. It's industrial threaded fasteners. That's your ball of wax. We're so glad you clicked in. Hi, everybody. Eric Dudas with you. And joining us, as always, it's the co-host of Fully Threaded. He's everyone's favorite code-slinging lifetime honorary Texan, Brian Musker. Hey, Bri, you doing all right?
I am. You didn't emphasize quite enough the predominantly fastener related stuff. Okay?
That'll become obvious during the course of the show.
I was thinking.
Longtime listeners know that pretty well. And if you're new to the podcast, thanks for hopping on. There's a giant archive of shows that you can get to. But boy, you picked a good one to join us for on this one, folks. It's a big episode because there's plenty of big fastener news, all about Big Fastener. This is episode 179 of Fully Threaded Radio. This time we're publishing on or about August 18th, 2022. In particular, one of the big headlines that dropped since we talked to you last time, everybody, is, of course, the acquisition of Star Stainless. This caught almost everyone by surprise, Bri.
Yeah, me being one of them, okay.
Uh-huh. Well, needless to say, Lindfast Solutions Group has made big headlines with this one, and we're fortunate to be connected with both of these fine companies.
Yes, we are.
And Tim Roberto Jr., president of Star Stainless, made it very clear to me right off the bat he'd be on the podcast, and he's here with us to fill y'all in on some of your obvious questions, make a few comments about all this. Nothing too surprising, Bri, but, it was good of him to do this because, of course, a lot of people are scratching their heads on this one.
Yep, I know. Well, it's an interesting move. It gives the Lindfast Group a fairly wide range of fasteners, actually.
Yes, we're definitely entering a new era of the fastener industry, and I think the trend of Big Fastener is well established. Hey, speaking of Big Fastener and Big Fasteners, our feature segment on the podcast today is a conversation with someone who knows a little bit about that. Baron Yarborough of Birmingham Fastener joins us. He's got the everyman's view on the big news of the day, plus what he's been up to lately. It was good to talk to him again, Bri. We didn't know if we'd be hearing from him.
No, we've missed him for a while now. And it's good to get him back.
On the Fastener News Report, Mike McNulty has big headlines on the Fastener Distributor Index. That was another shocker headline that came out since our last episode. And Tim Vath with Solution Industries sits in for commentary and analysis. As always, Carmen Vertullo's got the Fastener Training Minute. This time, he's taking a close look at sulfur. There's a lot of chemistry in fasteners, and sulfur's a big one. I don't think he's ever touched on this before, Bri, so listen up.
Okay.
Plus, you and I have got our usual roundup of various fastener flummery and effluvia. And it's all brought to us by a fine group of partners. Bri, shout them out, please.
Right. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Gerbil Fasteners, and Star Stainless Screw Company. Brighton Best International, tested, tried, and true. Gerbil Fasteners, quality of the first time. Star Stainless Screw Company, right off the shelf. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio are Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, InSequel Software, ND Industries, Parker Fasteners, 3Q Inc., Stillfast, Volt Industrial Plastics, Worth Industry North America, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. So make sure when you're looking for a fastener, think of these people first. They specialize and they're leaders in the industry, okay?
We're looking forward to seeing lots of these folks out in Chicago next week. We'll talk about that later in the podcast, and we're very interested in hearing what you have to say too, folks. So please don't hesitate. Reach out to us. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. Plus, you can always reach out and touch us through the FCH sourcing network. That's at fastenersclearinghouse.com.
With an S.
This time the S is for sulfur. I don't know how Carmen dreamed that one up. Well, actually, I do. It was because one of his AIM customers sent in the question, and he thought it was provocative enough to turn it into a training minute.
Yeah.
So why don't we take that as a cue here at the top of the episode to remind everybody that Carmen Vertullo has made a very generous offer. Actually, he sent out an email. I'm not sure who got this, Bri, because it was sent to me, but I think I was just on a distribution list. I'm sure he sent it out to a huge group of people. A little while back, he made an offer, an open offer to the industry.
Well, you could say a very generous open offer, actually.
Extremely generous, you're right. Mentoring program offer. And it was a little bit open-ended. He's put a little bit more definition onto it now with this email. Now, he's launching this on October 7th with a Zoom call. And the format going forward is going to be 2 Zoom conferences per month for the group. He doesn't really know yet how big the group's going to be, but this is your chance to get in on that.
Right, and learn, okay, because you'll be learning from a great and very, very knowledgeable person in this industry.
Carmen is one of the luminaries out there these days. He's really taken up the mantle for people like Joe Greenslade. And for you younger folks, if you're looking to get a leg up in the fastener industry, he's handing it to you on a silver platter.
Yep.
Now, Carmen will be in Chicago next week at Fastener Week, or you can reach out to him. His email address is carmenv@aimtestlab.com. One way or another, get details on this, or if you know somebody in your organization, don't miss this. We'll also say don't miss the rest of this episode. We've got Tim Roberto Jr. of Star Stainless kicking things off after a short break. He's got big news about Big Fastener. I tell you, this whole episode's big, Bri.
Just right to interview someone from Texas, okay?
You would know. Thanks for listening, everyone. It's Fully Threaded.
Brian and Eric, Fully Threaded Radio. It's Fastener Dog-Approved Talk Radio for the fastener industry.
At Bright & Best, we continue to expand our wide range of products, including stainless steel and metric fasteners. Our family of brands include Preferred, U.S. Anchor, and Ironclad Performance Wear. BBI has been a trusted partner since 1925. With award-winning hand tools, gloves, and drywall screws, BBI is the largest master distributor of fasteners in the USA. Tested, tried, and true. We are Bright & Best. To learn more about Bright & Best, visit brightandbest.com.
Gerbil Fasteners is excited to announce our brand new 18-volt lithium-ion cordless battery tools. They are proven, reliable tools ideal for demanding assembly, maintenance, general metalworking, and trucking industry applications. Gerbil Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
Stainless Dan here, coming to you from Star Stainless. From the beginning, Star has offered 2 major things to our customers. First, we stock a large diversified inventory of sizes, with inventory on hand so you can receive it right off the shelf. Second, we offer personal, friendly, efficient service from placing your order all the way to delivery. Star quality is more than products, just the way Wayne wanted it to be. It's simple. We're Star.
Hey, this is Morgan Wilson with International Fastener Expo, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
And the International Fastener Expo is coming up. Yeah, we'll be hearing Morgan's voice in person pretty soon, Bri.
Good, yeah. And we can talk about how he's doing with his fishing, okay?
Yeah, actually, he emailed me the other day. He finally scored. They got a good boat full of tuna. So, yeah, we'll catch up on all that. International Fastener Expo Vegas, October 17th through the 19th, everybody. Most of you know that, but if you haven't registered yet, get out to fastenershows.com. They also made an announcement, Bri, about a keynote speaker this year. They haven't had that for many years, but this year they've got Dirk Beveridge. He's kind of a crowd pleaser, sort of a motivational business guy. A lot of people like him. I've seen him before at the PAC West. He does a great job.
Yep.
International Fastener Expo coming up. That's, I think, still the biggest show in the fastener industry in North America.
North America, yeah, it is.
You've got the Vegemite for that this time, right, Bri?
I do, actually. Yes, my nephew came over from Australia to stay with us for a week and have a look around Chicago and brought a great big bag of Vegemite samples with him. Which for him is pretty amazing because he has trouble packing. In other words, he has trouble fitting all the shit he brings into a suitcase. So to bring a whole lot of extra crap was really pretty amazing.
Hey, for all the good you do him, he should be happy to be your Vegemite mule.
And he was.
Well, I'm sure listeners are very happy to hear about that. Hey, one other big piece of news before we get to Tim Roberto. Got an email here from Chris Donnell over at Scanwell. Of course, he puts out the monthly newsletter, watching what's going on with all the ocean and air freight and so forth. He puts it right at the top that ocean rates are continuing to slide. Now, this struck me as a thing to mention here, just because everything else in the world, it seems like, is going up, right?
Right.
So they say that they are expecting the trend of lowering prices to continue through September. And although they don't think it'll reach pre-pandemic levels, it's getting close. So 50% since January decrease.
Interesting. Okay.
I think with everything else involved in the clogs, with intermodals, you're still not going to see your stuff any sooner because of the drop. Or maybe that's even causing more problem at the ports. I don't know. I didn't ask him about that. Maybe we'll have him on again. But at least you'll be paying less for it. So that's got to be some comfort to somebody, right?
When you do get it.
There you go. Well, what you're going to get now is a conversation with Tim Roberto Jr. of Star Stainless. The big news, of course, Lindfast Solutions Group and Star.
Yeah, let's listen.
Well, the theme of the podcast today is Big Fastener. And, of course, we had big news coming into this episode, that being the Star Lindfast. Or do you think of it as the Lindfast Star news? I don't know. But talking to us now is somebody who definitely has an opinion on that. It's Tim Roberto. Hey, Tim, thanks for being here.
Hey, Eric, thanks for having me on. I guess this is big news for the industry, so it's good to address the elephant in the room, I guess.
Man, oh man, and thanks for being here to do it with us. I know a lot of times when these things happen, it takes a little while for the dust to clear and all, but right away you said, I'll be there, and I sure do appreciate it. So do the listeners. Why don't you give us a snapshot of where things stand with the big news that the Lindfast Solutions Group has acquired or merged with Star Stainless?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it right away. For us, the idea is to help people understand what this looks like, and when the dust settles, who we are. What I hope is when we look at everything, that we're going to see that nothing's changed on our side. Our drive is still going to be to be the best company we are, to bring customer service. So for us, what we're looking at is we were started by the Golden family. Bernard and his wife started it 70 years ago. Bernard passed it off to his son Wayne, and when Wayne passed away, it went to his wife Sylvia. Sylvia sold the company; it was family owned still, and sold to the Lindfast Group. And I thought for us, well, it's always sad to see an era end, family owned business. We felt like this was for us the best fit to continue on the legacy of what Star has done. And a lot of the conversations with Bill Nikitas, the CEO of Lindfast, it's been about that Star's about stainless, and we're not looking to change the way Star brings stainless to the market. We want to continue to drive that customer service, that continuity of what you guys have built. That's why we're keeping it as a division. Name stays the same, so Star Stainless will still be around. It's been nice to continue to hear some of those conversations of that continuation of what has been built. And for us, the hope is now with this combined resource of Lindfast, and even just some of the conversations I've had with Bill or with OJ from Stuff, Bernie from Lindstrom, Tim from Solution Industries, is this sense of combined how can we be better for our customers? And I think that's kind of the exciting part. That's kind of what I've always been excited about, because I'm a fastener guy at heart. With all these meetings and documents and everything that we've had to do, I just want to get back to selling screws, because that's what I like to do.
Yeah, I could totally see that, Tim.
Yeah, for us, I think what we've been happy about is just to see how we can combine that resource and make us a better company. And so for me, that's my main focus, is to put this part behind us. So now our focus is, how do we make Star a better company for our customers?
And we'll be talking to Tim Vath of Solution Industries that you just mentioned. He'll be commenting on the latest FDI with Mike McNulty later in the podcast. But I mention it because that's an example of a recent Lindfast Solution Group's acquisition that, as you said, they kept the identity. I guess you're calling it as a division. That's how you're thinking of it. Or Bill Nikitas is a hard-charging guy. I know he's super sharp.
Yeah.
And boy, I know the industry is really hoping for something similar with Star, and it sounds like that's exactly what's happening. So that's good news.
Yeah, he knows the value of what Star brings. He saw that. That's why they were very motivated to buy us, is because they see what we offer to the market. And his hope is, with this combined resources, to continue to help us to grow. We're not looking really the sense of, oh yeah, let's grow to be the biggest. Our whole focus is, let's grow to be the best. It doesn't matter how big you get. For us, it's always about, how are we the best? How are we the best for our customers, for our vendors, for our employees? What is it that we need to do to be the best? And that's what drives us. It's that constant sense of process improvement, of looking at ourselves and taking that hard look, because that's humbling at times. You want to rest on your laurels and say, hey, I think we've gotten to a point, and it's like, man, you just can't do that, because that market's ever changing, ever evolving. Our customers are facing new challenges, and we want to be there with them.
I know it's too early to say anything about some of the questions that everybody has about personnel, facilities, and so forth, but as it sits right now, refresh our memories. What's the setup with Star? How many locations that you have, and how are you serving your customers today?
Yeah, great question. So we have 14 locations, one in Canada, 13 in the U.S., including two of our divisions, one Yellowwoods, Yellowwoods and the Road Less Traveled in New Jersey, and Tortoise Fasteners in Denver. So what we've always tried to do is kind of position ourselves so we're about one UPS day away from the United States. So anywhere in the United States, you're going to be about a day away from a Star branch. And we're looking at building that up in those local facilities. And one of the nice parts of this is it builds up our footprint. With the other facilities that we see with the other divisions, it continues to build up that footprint of what we see in a market that's ever changing. And we want to continue to be more responsive and closer to our customers as well.
Now, listeners will remember that fairly recently, also in the market, another piece of big news that came through that also added to the big fastener paradigm was the acquisition of Vertex Distribution by Bright and Best International. Now, Vertex was a pretty big player in the stainless world. Do you think that event had anything to do with the Star merger?
No, I think those are two separate events. I think what you saw there was, again, a legacy company that was bought. And for BBI, I think for them, they saw an opportunity to grow in that area. And good for them. For us, this was a total separate look at it. What we were looking at is more of how can we kind of utilize and leverage the relationships that we have and build that footprint. So it wasn't a matter of we have to get bigger to like compete. For us, it really is how do we offer that? And also one of the nice things that I think this sale, one of the offputs of this sale is where a lot of people have always asked that question And I don't know why it is, but maybe it is that big fastener phenomenon that a lot of people will ask about family-owned businesses is like, so what's that succession plan look like? What's it going to look like for that next generation? And they get very nervous about that because they're thinking, is this going to be around? Is this a longevity? And so I think a lot of people were nervous about that for a long time with Star, especially when they saw Wayne pass away, that it was like, okay, what's that going to look like? Well, at least for them, there's some clarity now that it's like, okay, we're now being invested in with the Lindfast group. And so that gives us that definite continuity and then building that up with our other divisions. So I don't think those two had anything to do with one another. It really was just an opportunity time and a right time and a right fit for Lindfast as well.
Okay. Well, you can understand the question, though, because it's almost like one of these domino falling questions. People think about it that way. We're in a world where ever since I've been involved with the fastener industry, the master distributor pool has been diminishing. I mean, all you have to do is go to the Vegas show, for example, in the footprint, those big anchor booths, there's less and less of them.
Yeah, I mean, a great point. And I think that's indicative of what we see in the overall market in the U.S. is sort of consolidation that has happened. And for us, when we were looking at this wasn't a sense of like, well, everybody else is selling at this point. Maybe we need to look at that. That wasn't the way Star approached it. This was a good opportunity to continue the legacy of what Star built, and a company who is going to appreciate that, who is going to value that sense of what Star offers the market, and will continue to build that up. I think it was that for us, it was driven by a lot of that sense.
Right. So it's a fact of life that everybody's living with, but people are very open about their general, well, I don't want to say dissatisfaction, but let's say it this way. They're not thrilled with the idea of what they perceive as fewer choices out there in the marketplace. And you must hear it too. So how do you answer some of your customers who grouse about that a little bit? I mean, this is just what we're all dealing with. So what do you say to them?
Yeah, I think for us, it goes back to what our job is to be as responsive as possible. What we look at is how can we get better? And really, I know I keep coming back to that theme, but to me, that's what drives me. When I was running Star with the Golden family, when I'm running Star with the Lindfast group under Bill Nikitas, my job still remains the same. Is how am I being a valued entity for my customers? And if I'm not, if I'm just taking that for granted, well, that builds up that sense of what other competitors can come in. And so for us, what we want to do is be the best that we can and not focus on the other parts of it, but focus on our customers and having that communication and open lines to simply say, hey, give us that feedback on how we can be better. And that's really what I drive for our salespeople too. Is our job is to find out what are ways that we could be better. And we get that feedback. And that's where you've seen us be responsive a little slower than probably most companies, because anything that happens in Star, I always say Star is like, it's like basically driving the Queen Mary. It takes a long time to make turns. It takes a long time to do anything. And so for us, such a big entity, we've listened, we've heard. That sense of technology. We've offered that technology. We now finally have a website. We're looking at platforms for e-commerce. We're working with NCQL at this point where we actually offer that. And so for us, we're listening to what our customers are saying and not just saying, hey, this is what it is. Because I think that push mentality has changed a lot. That we're really trying to pull from our customers to say, okay, how can we be better? And it's not a cookie cutter mode. It really is listening to what our customers need and saying, how can we respond to that need?
And we've talked about that on your previous visits on the podcast, and that's very well taken. So the answer is simple. You provide better products, better service, and keep the customer happy, and that's how you do business.
Yeah, those are the things that keep me up at night. Having an unsatisfied customer, those are the things that will make me lose sleep. To us, what we want to do is be the best that we can.
I know we can't really speak specifically about what might happen. I mean, first of all, we don't know, but it's also probably not the right time for it. But just generally speaking, do you have any speculation on what the future of the fastener industry might look like? I mean, I ask you that because, we've talked offline about certain things that may not happen. Nobody can know. But as a general trend, do you have any thoughts on that?
Will there be more consolidation, to your point? I'm sure there is. You just see that you have so many legacy companies and that next generation that's not stepping up, that you're seeing a lot of owners that are looking at their company and saying, okay, what's that next thing look like? And for them, sometimes it's easier just to sell off to somebody else and consolidate. So will there be more? Yeah, I'm sure. But at the same time, whenever there's a market or opportunity, I think it breeds for competition. And I think that's exactly what happens. Is it naturally happens is when you see that there's an opportunity or a niche, those things will continue to happen. And I think you'll see a little bit of both. Will the consolidation happen a little faster? Probably. But I think when it's all said and done, I think what you see is ever evolving. You see pendulums that swing a certain way and then come back. I remember that was, probably the early 2000s when we were seeing a lot of consolidation. Then it stopped for quite a long time, and then it picked back up again. And I think we'll go through these sort of market trends, and you're seeing that right now. I think long term, when it's all said and done, people are looking for business opportunities. And I think that's ultimately what drives it. I think that's the beauty of the United States is that we have free markets that allow that to happen. And I think that's sort of what will continue to drive people.
Right. And I think technology as a driver of some of that innovation has already demonstrated what you're saying, Tim, because in those cases where you do see smaller startups, let's face it, many of them are technology driven. And when we have another breakthrough, boom, there's the opportunity, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You see market changers. For us, one of the market changers that we saw is even when Bright & Best came in, Bright & Best had been around for a long time, but when they, the Top Gen Group bought BBI in 2008 and brought them out, they changed the way that people went to market. They looked at a different way. And so you'll see game changes. And I think those will just continue to happen. And it was sort of a add-on to what we talked about at the last conference is people are looking for transformational changes. What's that going to look like? What's the marketplace going to look like? And to your point, it's going to be by innovations and technology. And for us, that means that we have to put on sort of that R&D hat to say, okay, how can we be better for our industry? That's the thing that I like about these conversations that you and I have, the conversations that we have about in associations or these different aspects, because what we have to be looking at is how can we be better for our industry? That's that sense of like, how can we speak to that next need that we don't even know is a need yet?
So we'll probably see a continuation of the big fastener trend mixed in with some small company startups and offshoots and so forth, and we'll just see what's around the next corner. Well, let's look over our shoulder now, Tim. What do you hear from our old friend Bruce Wheeler?
Yeah, I get to check in with Bruce every once in a while. Not as much as I used to be able to because I'm busy, and actually he's busy too. He's in Montana fixing up his house, doing some contracting himself. Bruce is the kind of guy that always has to stay busy, and so he's very good about doing that. But he's also very good about checking in. When I do catch up with Bruce, he'll tell me about all the people that he spoke to. It's just amazing how he keeps track and keeps in contact with so many different people. But to your point, what a wealth of resource to help me to who I became in Star Stainless, to help our company to be what it became. To me, that's a resource that you can never turn away from. And so for me, it really is for me a blessing to have such a good friendship with Bruce.
Well, that's great to hear. And of course, no conversation about Star Stainless would be complete without mentioning his name. So that's awesome. And of course, old timers now, I mean, it's only been a couple of years, Tim, but old timers, I guess we're going to have to call them, will remember the famous Star parties every year at the Vegas show. And because of COVID and now just the things are, I mean, that may be a memory.
Yeah, sad to say, isn't it? It just holding on to those memories. What a beautiful evening that Bruce would work so hard. I don't think people appreciated how much work Bruce put into this. He really would spend like a month with musicians of going over that, and sometimes even composing the music. Months. Sorry, months. Plural. Thank you. Months. Just going over new music, what that's going to look like, to time it well, to time it with the rest of the environment that was going on. He spent months on this, and he put his time and effort into it while trying to run a company. To me, those who were sorry, I don't know if you're ever a part of it, Eric, but for those who were a part of it, you're never going to forget those memories.
Yes, I angled for an invitation to that. It was a relatively exclusive event, lowly podcasters I don't think ever made it in, but
Yeah,
that's
okay. it's a scale of numbers. I think we could only fit like 260 in that restaurant. So I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, but they were legendary, that's for sure. And so it's the end of that era, but it's the beginning of a new one, isn't it? So the Lindfast Solutions Group Star team still have a lot in store for the fastener industry, and I guess we'll all strap in and see what that means.
Yeah, I'm excited. The more I have these conversations, I love talking fasteners. I love talking the industry, and so to me, I get excited about the opportunities of what this can bring. This industry has been very good to me, to my family, and so for us, I want to continue that legacy so that I can hand it on to that next generation and say, hey, I did my part to make this better. And so for me, what I see now with Lindfast and Star together, I see those opportunities of making the fastener industry better.
Well, Tim Roberto Jr., that energy and enthusiasm is one of the reasons you are where you are. And right now you're talking to us here on Fully Threaded Radio. I sure do appreciate it. Look forward to the next time.
Yeah, I always appreciate the time, Eric. Thanks for what you do.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, it's Fully Threaded.
MacGyver, by the looks of that detonator, this whole place is gonna blow in just 10 seconds!
Just stay calm, Judy. All we need is a metric fastener manufactured to an ISO or DIN standard.
10 seconds, MacGyver! What about the fastener?
Not a problem. Eurolink specializes in hard-to-find metric fasteners. Delivered. Did you contact the sales team at EurolinkFSS.com like I asked you to last week?
Well, no. I tried other importers, but they couldn't fulfill the quotes.
Oh, Judy, now we're completely screwed. Eurolink. Hard-to-find metric fasteners. Delivered.
Parker Fasteners is your premier cold heading manufacturer, forging the future with precision and quality as our top priority. When you think of domestically produced sockets and tamper-proof screws from alloy and stainless, including A286, think Parker Fasteners. Forge the future with Parker Fasteners. Visit Parker Fasteners online today at parkerfasteners.com.
This is Jake Davis with BTM Manufacturing, and for over 50 years, we have been a leading manufacturer of bent wire and threaded products, including U-bolts, single and double end studs, anchor bolts, and many more per-print items. Based in the heart of America, Kansas City, Missouri, BTM supports Fully Threaded Radio because they support our fastener industry. Being a part of FTR is almost as good as a hot cup of industry favorite U-bolt blend coffee. And if you still don't know how good that is, call BTM Manufacturing today and find out for yourself. BTM Manufacturing, commitment to service.
This is Nancy Rich of the Midwest Fastener Association. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you, talking about big fasteners today, and it's the news segment. What could be bigger, Brian?
Nothing. Oh, it could be a little bigger because I've just with by pure chance now talking about Birmingham Fasteners. I've always had these things come through from Birmingham Fasteners, which we really had no classification for. It's called a speed bolt. It's used in construction. It's sort of used for quickly clamping something together while you're building it, and it caused me a bit of problems, but I finally have made that a subcategory with an FCH. It's been in so-called development for probably 2 years because we've been using it in our other scrubber projects. So, and it has a number of names, a fitting up bolt. And my original confusion was that I got confused with a fit bolt, which is a totally different thing.
Right. Go back a couple episodes and that was covered in depth.
Yeah, it was. So this is a fitting up bolt. Probably one of these names is an English name, I would think. Anyway, so there's not very many of them, but for the bigger construction companies like Birmingham Fasteners, they have them, okay?
Now available at FCH Sourcing Network, fastenersclearinghouse.com. Keep up the good work, Bri. Like to congratulate Industrial Rivet and Fastener Company on a 110-year legacy. They've got the front cover of the latest issue of American Fastener Journal, Bri. That's the July-August issue. Got it sitting here. Of course, Industrial Rivet, otherwise known as the Rivet King, longtime FCH members. I think they were charter members, Bri.
They were too, Birmingham and Industrial Rivet. And coincidentally, I'm just processing a fairly big upload from an Industrial Rivet, and they seem to have gone a lot into cap screws and the whole bolt world. You know, we normally only think of Industrial Rivet as rivets. Well, they cover way, way more than just rivets, okay?
Well, in 110 years, you branch out a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, the early days used to be interesting because when we used to get our uploads from Industrial Rivet, they never ever mentioned anywhere the word rivet because they didn't have to. Anything they sold was rivets. Now you have to be really careful because they've got rivets and bolts and nuts and washing screws and all sorts of things.
Right. It used to be implied.
It was. Yeah.
They'll be out there in Vegas. They are every year. So congratulations again on that front cover. Good job again, Tom, on this issue. Tell you, another of our Fastener Media brethren who keep kicking out the good stuff. We'll just mention this before we get to Mike McNulty and Tim Vath. The ladies over at Fastener News Desk issued a very good interview with Dan Hill and Rainer Burkert of Worth.
Yeah.
Many of you know Dan Hill. He's the CEO of Worth Industry North America. Mr. Burkert, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly because it does have an umlaut in it, and never quite sure, but that's what it looks like to me. He's a veteran of Worth on the central managing board. They sat down with Fastener News Desk and put this out. Get out to the August 3rd article for more on this. Really in-depth reporting. Good to see. Worth Industry North America, of course, great supporters of the podcast and FCH for a long time.
All right.
When Fastener News Desk does these kinds of things, you can usually count on the hard-hitting stuff. Of course, I talked with Dan Hill recently. He's going to come on the podcast, but I said, we're going to talk about hot dogs, if you don't mind, because he has that background. So we'll offset all the hard-hitting stuff over here, folks. You can count on us.
Right, just in case you want to know what that connection really is.
And the Fastener News Report is brought to us today by Volt Industrial Plastics, and the title sponsors of Fully Threaded are Bright & Best, Global Fasteners, and Star Stainless. Well, Mike is super focused on fasteners as usual. He closes out the back page report today with something decidedly non-fastener related. Not too heavy. I think baseball fans are going to love this one.
Right. I knew it couldn't be totally focused on fasteners, okay?
Big surprise, huh, in this episode of Big Fasteners. Why don't you do the honors?
Yes. So, for news about screws that you can use, here's Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Eric and Brian. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. Irrational exuberance for income taxing and unfunded spending seems to be the standard practice in Washington, D.C., as $1 trillion more U.S. dollars are about to get set on fire, including billions for tax collectors and billions for battery-operated car enthusiasts and billions for microchip makers and billions for drug takers and billions for who knows what else. But I am still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, Tim Vath, General Manager at Solution Industries, LLC, joins us from the great state of Ohio to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story on MSC and LSG acquisitions, as well as newsmaker headlines from Park, Ohio, Mohindra Fasteners, Advanced Components, boltsandnuts.com, Bright & Best International, Precision Threaded Products, and more. On the back page report, we're going to talk about baseball radio announcers. We'll get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
There's a reason Volt Industrial Plastics is an industry leader in plastic clip, clamp, and custom fastener manufacturing. With over 100 million parts in stock that can be shipped the same day, Volt has some of the fastest lead times in the industry. Volt can do color. We have the capability of molding over 120 different materials and can color match for specific applications. You need it? We can build it. At Volt, we have state-of-the-art technology to build prototypes to customer specs. And although some companies provide similar products, we offer customer service that's second to none, setting us apart from our competition. And now available, Volt's new light-duty cable clamps. With maximum diameters ranging from 3/16 to a ½ inch, these clamps are ideal for hard-to-reach spaces, electronics, and finish work. They prevent corrosion with metal tubing, and with plastic tubing, they won't bind or warp, preventing leaks while maintaining the flow of liquids. Volt Industrial Plastics, the finest, fastest plastic fasteners in the world. Visit us at voltplastics.com.
Since 1905, Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been supplying the world with high-quality fasteners. Our standard product lines include weld fasteners, braided weld screws, leg levelers, self-clinching hardware, clevis pins, rivet nuts, and various other fastener lines, allowing us to support virtually all types of industries. BuckeyeFasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, more than just weld.
Solution Man, Ken.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
SOLUTION, SOLUTIO. Solution Industry. We are Solution.
Mike McNulty.
The seasonally adjusted Fastener Distributor Index for July 2022 was 46.1, a significant drop from the previous month's result of 53.8, and the first time in over 2 years that it's been below 50. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insight on these results, we talked to Tim Vath, General Manager at Solution Industries, LLC. Hi, Tim. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
How you doing? Appreciate you having me.
I'm doing good. And how about you? This is your first time in the FDI seat, so I think the listeners are anxious to hear what you have to say about the latest FDI results, which are something unique. For we haven't been below 50 for a long time. So what do you think?
Yeah, hopefully I meet expectations for all those out there. But no, it's interesting. Found the information to be pretty interesting, sort of conflicting, I guess. Obviously, FDI being at a over 2-year low is what you could think for cause for some concern there. But it's weird to contrast that with the overall sentiment and just kind of being in the day-to-day and feeling the activity and talking to customers and suppliers. So, and then obviously comparing the current FDI to the FLI, it is a pretty drastic difference there. So,
right. So what you're saying is your experience is maybe a little different than what the FDI is saying.
Yeah, I think. I think it's probably, not to sit on the fence, but a little in between. There might be a little noise in the data, but obviously, you tend to rely on more certainty with actuals than projected, being the FLI. So I think what's happening is out there. There's especially that it's heavily leaned on the sales dropping, which we'll get into the metrics. But just based on, and I don't know if it's a catchphrase of everybody nowadays, just to say, yeah, we're so busy, we're slammed. But that's kind of how you hear it with everybody and what you talk to. So
yeah, fulfilling orders that were placed a while ago is probably keeping you pretty busy. You mentioned the sales number, which dropped to an anemic 43.2, like about over a 20-point drop from last month. So that was the thing that really brought everything down, I believe.
Yeah. And again, you can't ignore that. That's what's happening. It's just curious. It's odd to see that the FLI is so inflated then with that being a huge contributor to the FDI. And I don't know, you look at the 6-month outlook and it kind of depends on if you're a pessimist or an optimist because, and I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but
that's okay.
The expectations to be higher in 6 months is 50%, which is great, but it's still a sizable chunk you know, 2 months in a row, 38 and 39%, expecting it lower. So I don't know. You could see, and everything's not created equal in the market. Obviously, some could see success and some could see some issues happening. But
yeah, you mentioned the FLI, which is the forward-looking indicator, and that jumped to 58.1 versus 51.5 last month, and that was last month. It was a 2-year low, and now we're back. It jumped up to 58.1, which is the second highest FLI we've had in 2022. So it is a diverging. You know, the FDI gets hammered and the FLI rebounds, which is a little contrasting. And you also mentioned the 6-month outlook, which was 50%, expecting to be sales better 6 months from now, 18 the same, and 38 worse. The big change there was a lot of people moved from the same column over to the better column. That's probably what brought the FLI up. Baird is saying they think that, you know, this month's contraction might be short-lived. They're expecting possibly a bounce back in August, is expected by Baird as well as most of the respondents. And what do you think about that?
yeah, I mean, I hope it's just a blip. You know, it's a pretty drastic turn from June being 65 to 43. You know, I'd be curious to see trends from a standpoint of dollars versus volume, you know, weight or quantity as well, because you know, we're seeing a slower rate of price growth, and then the positive FLI could suggest, you know, expectations for volume to increase as well, which would be great. You know, sales growth wouldn't solely be based on price at that point, which would be an encouraging sign. But I guess I'm not exactly sure what happened in July. You know, personally, we had a pretty strong July, and you know, which is exciting. And so I can't speak to the market, but it's clear that, you know, and I think anytime you have, you know, the external noise that's going on right now, it's not good for demand and decision making in general. So I think you're naturally going to see some second guessing on buying decisions. You know, I think it's been discussed before, but the panic buys and the double buys and all of that is kind of probably out the window at this point. So numbers being inflated for those reasons, I don't see happening anymore. And maybe that kind of came to a head in July, but it is interesting.
Yeah, that was definitely something that was going on, but it's probably not going on now. And maybe some people even canceled some of their orders, or we'll get into the comments. There's one comment that leads into that idea. So, you know, obviously not everybody had bad sales in July. You guys didn't, but there was enough in the survey pool of respondents that brought that sales number down quite a bit. And yeah, I think it might be a blip. Some of the other factors, pricing, employment, and inventories were all pretty stable, and pricing still pretty elevated, but they didn't really change much in July versus the previous numbers for June.
In my experience, it definitely seems like the market's pretty well recovered on inventory levels. I guess at this point, it just really depends on what happens to demand and if it continues to outpace supply at this point. Because obviously, you know, the massive backlogs we've all had for a long time are starting to land, and there's no secret that, you know, we've been all operating on some shortages for a while, but it's good to see the backlog land. I think capacities, you know, are still tough. Lead times are tough. I don't think our supply chain issues are over by any means, but does seem to see some lightening in port congestion. You know, freight costs are going down, but overall, yeah, I think inventories are strong now. It's just a matter of what happens to demand moving forward.
Mm-hmm. We'll get into the comments in a minute here, but the last thing I want to mention that Baird said, they believe that there's some cracks in the overall market conditions that are emerging for the first time since May of 2020. So,
yeah, and that's that's indicative of what's going on the macro level. I mean, you know, I think it's all relative as well. You know, slower growth is still growth, right? You know,
correct. I mean,
we can't be, you know, I think there's been a lot of record activity in the industry the last couple of years. And, you know, we all hope that continues forever, but it's not going to happen forever. So any growth, you know, in that market in that, you know, environment would be good.
All right. Well, we'll look forward and see if we get the bounce back in August, or see what happens. It will be interesting, and this was I didn't expect us to go below 50 for the FDI dropping to 46, but hey, expect the unexpected, and we'll see what happens next month.
Definitely was a shock. I think people will be. I hope it doesn't cause more concern. You know, I hope it is just a blip. And we haven't seen. You know, we've seen some delays here and there. I think that's again natural in the environment, but I think overall, everything's pretty strong. But again, you don't want to be naive to what's going on, and the data is the data, and you gotta, take it and do what's best for the company and your customer base at that point.
Sometimes it rains, sometimes it doesn't.
Exactly.
Sometimes you want rain and you don't have any, but that's a different subject.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the comments. This is the part where I read some of the comments that people made while they were filling out the survey, and we'll see what you think on these. It was kind of mixed in July. The first one is, quote, lead times continue to move further out, yet no effect on incoming sales orders. Tooling and material deliveries are lagging seriously, causing further delays in shipping orders. The next one is, quote, even though we hear chatter about a recession on the news, our customer base, which services aerospace, defense, and semiconductors, is growing their demand forecasting. We're expecting continued growth through the end of the year, end quote. The next one is somebody wrote, multiple human issues brought us a horrible sales month. So maybe that was somebody who gave us the 43.
Yeah. I can't help on the human issues or discuss that, but maybe they can make some internal changes, I guess.
Yeah, that's something I think a lot of people have experienced or still experiencing on and off now. Okay, next comment was, quote, business is getting soft. Lots of customers asking to move out delivery dates, end quote. That was the one I alluded to where, maybe some of those panic buttons, like, hey, we don't need everything right now.
Yep. And I think if you look at that from a case by case basis, everything kind of tells a different story. And again, it's you're beholden to, what the industry that you're serving, their outlook and demand forecast is as well. Like, you talked about the aerospace and defense. And, if you have a lot of eggs in one basket, you kind of got to track that basket a little more closely. But, yeah, I think I would agree to the tooling and issues on the manufacturing side, especially domestically. Like I said earlier, I think capacities and lead times aren't, getting much better there. So that's some cause for concern still.
Yeah, it takes a long time to change those. So.
For sure. Okay,
the last comment was kind of long, and I'm going to paraphrase it here. And it was a little bit interesting, but I'm paraphrasing it. So whoever did it, that's me cutting it down a little bit. But, quote, both political parties in Washington are pushing their agendas. Talk on one side is that we are not in a recession and we need to increase handouts for the betterment of the union. And the other side is opposing these handouts, but pushing through spending anyways for the betterment of their states. So state versus federal there. And then all of this is making people believe everything they hear. Let's stop printing money and let's not raise taxes, but make it easier to do business with domestic manufacturing, end quote. I would agree with that. Anything that can be done to make it easier to do business is always a good thing. You got to have some regulations to make sure things are done properly, but it's always good to unburden manufacturers and distributors and people to get things going.
100%. And you're never going to make every facet happy. It sounds like that might be from a domestic manufacturer standpoint, which obviously we all need and rely on as well. But yeah, don't want to get overly political there, but
right.
I think you summed it up well. And the more we can all work together and keep everything from being too encumbered with red tape and all that, the better it is for the economy for sure.
Well, as we speak, there's some more spending being pushed through, so we'll see how that impacts the next month. Another $250 billion or something.
Yeah, that could help.
It could help some sectors, but eventually you got to pay the bills.
Yeah, and we're in the middle of paying some bills from prior. So yeah. Thus we're here.
Yeah, that's right. We're still working, and people are still using fasteners, and that's a good thing. So that kind of brings any other comments on the FDI or general market conditions you want to bring up before we let you get a chance to talk about Solution Industries?
No, like I said, I think, overall, you just kind of got to look at it from a relative standpoint and make sure you're comparing apples to apples and know that, any growth, is a good sign. Obviously, you push for as much as you can get, but hopefully this is just a little blip in the radar and we can kind of get back like the FLI suggests and get back to some strong demand and growth moving forward.
Well, that sounds good to me. So, like I said, we're going to give you a chance to tell the listeners what's going on at Solution Industries.
Yeah, doing really well here at Solution and definitely have some exciting things in the works. It's been really great to be able to leverage the LSG team since we came on board last year. Definitely has strengthened our ability to service the customer more effectively and frankly competitively. We definitely are sticking to our core niche of providing specialty, secondary process parts complete, just as you'd procure any other standard, off the shelf commodity. And we're really working to do things internally to streamline that and cater to the customer as much as we can to make their jobs easier. Like I said, really, really important for us to leverage the LSG team. And, obviously speaking of that, it's no breaking news at this point. Our most recent acquisition of Star, which is just super exciting for Solution, selfishly, but also, LSG as a whole. Definitely fortunate to have added, such a reputable brand in the industry, and definitely looking forward to all the ways they can strengthen LSG in the market and, again, provide just such an awesome tool to service our very much shared customer base at this point.
And you mentioned is it about a 1 year since you guys were joined the group?
Yeah, about 9-10 months.
Okay. And things are going pretty good there in that. Seems like an active group to me. And that was, as you mentioned, it was brought up, it was already talked about on the show earlier, but definitely seems like you guys are heading the right direction.
Yep. I'm very excited. Like you said, active group. It's crazy just the last, 10 years, but even 5 years, how much, the industry has changed in the market. This is the direction we're on, and again, I think we're making the right moves, obviously to, again, service the customer. That's the end goal. We're Solutions, a service-based company, and I think we're all service-minded here at LSG, so we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, Solution Industries is famous for the solution man and character, and I'm looking at the website right now, solutionind.com, and listeners can go there and check it out. And I like your tagline: one call, one price, one shipment, one invoice, one solution.
Definitely, I appreciate that. Yeah, we still are, and I think we got, again, some more tools in the tool belt to help us out, and like I said, some exciting things coming down the pike here. So.
Last year, you guys hosted the North Coast Fastener Association and with a nice tour, and I got a pleasure of going on that. And I was impressed with your people and your facilities and everything, your approach to everything. Doing a good job. I was looking at your profile on LinkedIn, Tim, and I saw that you've been at Solution a little bit over 8 years, and you started out in accounting and finance and moved into management. And how's that transition been?
Yeah, it's been great. I think, I've always been a financially minded person, a numbers person, which, I was thankful for my beginnings in that world because it gave me a different perspective to business and, what really makes money and, profit and all of the good fun parts of a business. But then, kind of once I sunk my teeth into that, I was looking for a little bit more and get involved in the broader scope of the business and operations and how to, really affect change on the front end proactively, rather than just on the number side in the background. So, had an opportunity, pretty early here, which was great. And then it's been accelerating, which has been nice. And obviously learning every day for sure. I don't think anybody ever stops learning, but I really enjoy that. And I enjoy learning from my people and, relying on them, honestly, empowering them, putting them in position to succeed and, learn from each other. So I guess short form, it's been fun.
Good. Now, I forgot to mention at the beginning, you're joining us from Ohio, and I'm in Ohio as well. And I saw that you were a graduate from Kent State University. So we've got a good Ohio vibe coming from Solution Industries.
Yes, Ohio vibe. I'm a Ohio guy. Born and raised. All the Cleveland sports. We're diehards over here. I'm not a diehard Golden Flash. I am a diehard Buckeye. So
okay.
I stray from my allegiance, alma mater wise at least. But
for the football.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So definitely excited for the Buckeyes this year. And
there's a big game on September 3rd.
I forget who they're playing.
They're playing Notre Dame.
Irish. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I know.
Irish against the Buckeyes. So it'll be a big national event. A lot of good alumni associations on both those teams. So
yeah, that'll be fun too, especially their new head coach being a former Buckeye. So yeah, taking over for Mr. Brian Kelly there. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully the Buckeyes come out on top.
Yeah, that will be good. I'm looking forward to that.
Definitely.
Good. Well, I want to thank you for joining us, and it's good to hear what's going on at Solution Industries, as well as your perspective on the FDI, which took it on the chin this month, and hopefully it'll get back up off the mat.
Yeah, hopefully when I'm invited back, it'll be all positive, and I won't have to, speak for the industry on why things are bad.
Carry the tag of the guy who brings
Yeah,
bad news.
hopefully I did all right.
All right. No, you did good. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
That was Tim Vath. He's the general manager at Solution Industries, LLC. The FDI number for July was 46.1 versus 53.8 in June. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story, which is actually two top stories, one from MSC and the other from LSG. Firstly, MSC Industrial Supply has acquired Tower Fasteners, a value-added distributor of OEM fasteners and components. Under this equity purchase agreement, Tower will continue to operate under its current name and locations after becoming an MSC company. Mark Shannon, president of Tower, will continue to lead the business, which has about 100 associates and annual revenue of $35 million. MFC's acquisition of Tower, made through its All-Integrated Solutions subsidiary, also known as AIS, expands the company's presence in the OEM fastener market, which it entered in 2018 with the acquisition of AIS, the value-added distributor of industrial fasteners and components, MRO supplies, and assembly tools. Tower's growing footprint complements AIS's existing locations concentrated in the Midwest of the USA. The company operates 8 distribution centers along the East Coast and in the southwestern regions of the United States, Mexico, and Europe. Tower serves manufacturers in the industrial, electronics, metal equipment, aerospace, military, and security, fire, and safety sectors. And secondly, Lindfast Solutions Group, also known as LSG, a master distributor of specialty fasteners in North America, has purchased Star Stainless Screw Company. Together, LSG and Star will be even more effective at meeting the needs of their diverse customer base, ranging from stainless to inch, to metric, to value-added services, and more. As with other recent acquisitions by Lindfast, little change is expected in the near term from a customer's perspective. LSG's goal is to maintain the Star brand name in the market. For the foreseeable future, Star will continue to operate out of its existing facilities, will remain on the same ERP system, and will extend the same policies current in place. In addition to Star, the LSG brands are Lindstrom, Stelfast, Fasteners and Fittings, Chansheng Fasteners, Solution Industries, and Megametric. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In acquisition and joint venture news, Park, Ohio has acquired Southern Fasteners and Supply and Charter Automotive. Keller and Kalmbach Group in Germany and Mohindra Fasteners in India have formed a joint venture named KK Mohindra Fastenings Private Limited. And Novaria Group has signed an agreement to acquire Stroco Manufacturing Incorporated. In personnel and representation news, Advanced Components announced that Mallory Cravens-Nichols has been promoted to Vice President of Business Development and that Brian Nichols has joined the sales team as a Regional Account Manager. Brian Urey has been promoted to boltsandnuts.com President. Christian Jorvisky of IFE America has been named as board member for the Young Fastener Professionals, also known as the YFP. Lucy Rushton has been promoted to Regional States Manager at Brighton Best International in Melbourne, Australia. Yvonne Martinez and Nora Hulitz have been promoted to Branch Manager and Assistant Branch Manager, respectively, at Brighton Best International, Los Angeles. Cooper Turner Beck has appointed Gong Ping to Operations Manager. Advantis Aerospace has appointed Jason Bowling as Interim Chief Financial Officer. And Precision Threaded Products, also known as PTP, has expanded its sales and service capabilities with the addition of engineered components to its aerospace sales network. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report monthly newsletter, both available online at fastenertech.com. Now let's turn to the back page to talk about baseball radio announcers. No doubt that most fans of Major League Baseball and those that love to listen to games on the radio heard of the recent death of legendary broadcaster Vin Scully, the golden voice of Dodger baseball for nearly 70 years. There are literally dozens of fresh and excellent columns written about this Hall of Famer and loads of recordings of his beautiful and memorable calls of important and ordinary moments in baseball, and I have certainly enjoyed wasting some time going down memory lane. I never lived in Brooklyn or Los Angeles, and I've only been a casual admirer of the Dodgers, but like legions of American baseball fans of a certain age, I grew up listening to baseball on the radio, and have lots of baseball radio memories, including my own Vin Scully story. In 1989, at the YFP-esque age of 27, I was sent to southern Germany for 2 months of training at the parent company of my new employer. Outside of a few vacations to relatively close or neighboring states, one job interview in St. Louis, and one overnight business trip to Connecticut, I had not traveled very far or long outside of the great state of Ohio when I suddenly found myself more than 4,000 miles from home, feeling like I was in a Paul Simon song from the mid-1980s. A foreign man in a strange world that doesn't speak the language, has no currency, and is looking at angels in the architecture. But for all of the full days of training and excitement of exploring Bavarian culture, I was often lonely and homesick, especially when I returned to my hotel at night and on the weekends. Being a new traveler, I wasn't wise in packing for downtime. German TV wasn't interesting, I wasn't a great reader at the time, and smartphones were thankfully decades away from appearing. So my attention turned to a radio that was built into the headboard of the hotel bed frame. I flipped it on and started working the tuner, and to my surprise, I found a strong signal to Armed Forces Radio, later and now known as the American Forces Network. It had good programming targeted to U.S. military stationed outside of the USA, and it turned out that there was a now-closed U.S. military base near my hotel, which I eventually visited by bike. In addition to music, news, and some excellent old-time radio theater, Major League Baseball games were regularly broadcast on the station, and Vin Scully made frequent appearances. His voice was at once recognizable and comforting, bringing American culture straight from California to my tiny and empty room in Germany, stoking memories of listening to Herb Score broadcast Cleveland Indians games when I was a kid, and Harry Callis calling the action for the Philadelphia Phillies on long drives in Pennsylvania. Of all the radio announcers that I have enjoyed over the years, Vin Scully was by far the best, and he was especially good at telling stories and always leaving room for both the silence and sounds of the game and enough space for listeners to savor the roar of the crowd or to hear the solitary voice of a heckler or a food and beverage vendor. So as the summer of 2020 comes to a close, here's my warm thank you and standing tip of my ball cap to Vin Scully and all the beloved baseball radio announcers that have helped make this beautiful game come alive in our imaginations. Many people liken baseball as a metaphor to life, so I imagine that Vin Scully, who actually played center field at Fordham University, now knows what it is really like to round third after hitting a walk-off homer while being cheered on all sides under the bright lights and headed home to an adoring throng of teammates waiting for him at home plate. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
Stelfast customers say it all.
Dave Kaplan, Mutual Screw and Supply, Rochelle Park, New Jersey. First of all, I know most of those people there literally for 40 years. They've been there that long. They're more than just vendors of mine, they're friends of mine. They refer business to me and they're loyal as can be. I can drop ship product from them and I never have a concern about them going after my accounts. They're the most loyal people on the planet. The people at Stelfast are incredible people.
For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stelfast.
ND Industries has been increasing the safety and reliability of fastener assemblies by developing innovative materials and processes since 1955. Names like ND Patch, Thermalock, Electrolock, and Vibratite serve a wide variety of fastening applications across North America and around the world. To see our full line of innovative products or to discuss your application requirements, contact ND Industries today at www.ndindustries.com.
Stainless Dan here, coming to you from Star Stainless. Star quality is more than products, just the way Wayne wanted it to be. It's simple. We're Star.
Hi, everyone. This is Carmen Vertullo coming to you from the Fastener Training Institute and AIM Testing Laboratory in beautiful El Cajon, California, with the Fastener Training Minute. Like many or most of our Fastener Training Minutes, this one is precipitated by a very good question from one of our clients, and that question regarding the chemical analysis requirements for a particular fastener. And this fastener happened to be a grade 5 bolt from SAE J429, and there was one particular element that was causing a problem, and it was sulfur. When we return, we're going to talk about sulfur. There's a lot to know about chemistry when it comes to steel in bolts, but in particular, sulfur is one of those things that we run into problems with. When you return, we'll tell you how to solve some of those problems or maybe how to avoid them and identify them. But in the meanwhile, while we are on the break, if you have the ability, go and get out your IFI Fastener Standards book, inch version. If you happen to have the latest version, which is 2021, you can turn to page 241. And on that page, you will see Table 2, the chemical composition table for SAE J429. It'll be helpful to have it in front of you. You don't need it, or any other version of SAE J429. We'll be back in a little bit.
Thanks, Carmen. This is Jo Morris with the Fastener Training Institute. We have slowly been bringing back in-person training classes, and the response and attendance has been outstanding. While the entire industry is facing a surge in demand and feeling the struggles of supply chain, the smartest thing that you can do is invest in yourself and your people with training. This year, the Fastener Training Institute will present our Legacy Fastener Training Week 3 times in different locations throughout the U.S., plus the possibility of a Canadian class in Montreal. Los Angeles, Cleveland, and Chicago are our current city locations for Fastener Training Week, and they have been selling out, so I encourage you to enroll early to secure your spot for this week-long event. For those of you who are new to our program, Fastener Training Week is the training platform to become a certified fastener specialist. After taking the required classes and passing the final exam, participants are then eligible to become a certified fastener specialist, which is arguably one of the highest designations and accomplishments in our industry. If taking a week away from work is not in the cards, and I get it, we are also bringing back our single-day in-person classes with the same content. These are great standalone classes, or take all of them at your own pace throughout the year, and you will still qualify to become a certified fastener specialist. These classes are going to take place in the Los Angeles area and will run throughout the year. As in years past, the Fastener Training Institute is partnering with all of the regional fastener associations and the trade shows by offering training opportunities at most events. If you're looking for a class on fastener basics or how fasteners are made, or even something slightly more technical, we have you covered. These are fun events, they're great training, and it's wonderful networking opportunities, and we thank all of our partners for working with us. Lastly, and most importantly, please check out our website at fastenertraining.com for an up-to-date schedule, course description, and lots of information on current fastener events. We also have an extensive online learning library that hosts more than 50 training videos for every skill set in the fastener industry. Again, it's really been great getting to know many of you. Please say hello to me at any industry event, and it's going to be a great year for training. Now back to Carmen.
Quality products, quality service, quality customers. That's 3Q Inc., a fastener distributor unlike any you've worked with before. With its unique remote managed inventory stocking programs, wide array of secondary service offerings, and wholly owned cold forming capability, 3Q Inc. has been supporting fastener distributors since 2008. 3Q offers a wide range of 100% American-made fasteners, including ITW SEMS lock washers, as well as specialty and imported parts. Give 3Q a call today to discuss your needs and experience 3Q quality for yourself. 3Q Inc. www.3q-inc.com.
Well, welcome back, everyone. This is Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute. And today we're talking about the chemical analysis requirements for SAE J429 fasteners, in particular grade 5, and in particular the requirement for sulfur. Now, the chemistry requirements for SAE J429 are very similar to many other fasteners. Grade 5 is a heat-treated material. So is grade 8 a heat-treated material. Grade 5 is typically going to be medium carbon steel. And it turns out that just like many other standards, SAE J429 does not dictate a particular alloy. It simply gives us some requirements for the constituents of the various elements that are in the alloy. Now, mostly it's going to be iron because it's steel. So this is going to be far north of 90-some% steel. And because we're talking about medium carbon steel here, not alloy steel, in this particular case, it's going to be somewhere north of 98% iron by weight. So in this particular case, it turns out that our grade 5 material has a sulfur requirement, which is actually a maximum. Usually when we see requirements where there's a maximum, it means that having too much of this product or this element will have a negative effect or a deleterious effect of some sort on the performance of the finished alloy. In this case, SAE J429 requires that we have a maximum of 0.025% by weight of sulfur. And that's not very much. That's a very small amount. It has a similar requirement, for example, for phosphorus, which also can have a deleterious effect. But in some cases, we intentionally add sulfur to steel because it can have a positive effect on one property, which is machinability. It makes the steel, or even in some cases stainless steel, easier to cut and machine. But when we're making grade 5 bolts, we're not machining anything. That part is made by hot forming or cold forming in most cases, almost always cold forming. But in the case I'm going to talk to you about, it was hot formed. And so we have a situation here where we don't want the sulfur. We don't need the sulfur. We're going to hold it at that max. Now, in this particular case, a very astute end user looked at the material test reports, the mill test reports that came with the product, and noticed that the sulfur was at 0.027%. So it was 0.002% higher than allowed by the standard. And I can tell you right now that 0.002 would have absolutely no impact or make any difference whatsoever on the performance of this alloy. But it's on the paper, so we have to deal with it. So we have a couple of choices here. And it turns out that SAE J429 gives us a little bit of wiggle room. For example, what it tells us in one of the notes to Table 2, which is on the next page probably, regardless of which version you're in, Note 10 says that alloy steel used to make fasteners by hot forging or machining may have a maximum content weight of 0.03% for phosphorus and 0.04% for sulfur. So if we're going to use alloy steel and we're going to hot forge it or machine it, then we can bump that up, because one of the things that too much sulfur can give us problems with is cold forming. So we're hot forming or we're machining, we don't need to worry so much about that. It turns out when I was looking at this product, it was a weird size. It was like 7/16 by 14.5 inches long. And I'm thinking it's not very likely that this part was cold formed, because a lot of cold formers can't make a part that long. And secondly, the quantity was very low, only 100 pieces. And I also knew who the manufacturer was, and it turns out they're a hot header. So I knew the part was hot-headed. Then the next question was, did they use alloy steel or not? Because if they did, then we're out of jail free here. It turns out they did not use alloy steel. However, there is a note, number 7 in the table, that gives us a definition of what alloy steel would be for the purposes of this standard. And it's a very complicated note. I'm going to read it to you and you're going to get a headache, and you are not going to understand it, I am sure, unless you read it yourself, because I had to read it 3 or 4 times before I figured it out. But I finally did figure it out. I am not going to explain it to you, though, because I'll get a headache. So here's note number 7. Welcome to the world of fastener standards. It says, alloy steel shall contain at least one of the following elements in the minimum quantity given. Chromium, 0.30%, nickel, 0.30%, molybdenum, 0.20%, vanadium, 0.10%, manganese, 1.65%. Where elements are specified in combinations of 2, 3, 4, or 5, and have alloy contents less than those given above, the limit value may be applied for steel class determination is 70% of the sum of the individual limit values shown above for the 2, 3, 4, or 5 elements concerned. Okay, go get your Advil. Now, this actually is a very cool passage, and this kind of gives you some insight into how metallurgists think, especially when it comes to things like cold forming, hot forming, and fasteners. And it's basically just saying, hey, you can get away with calling an alloy steel when it's not, if some combination of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how you add them up, comes to a certain amount of limit of the sum of those alloys, even though it's not the amount that's required for any given one of them. Best way I can explain it, there's probably a better way. Anyway, so I'm looking at our table and I'm looking at this, and we were almost there with manganese. So if we would have had one of those elements above one of those amounts, we could have been there, but we weren't. So it turns out this was pretty close to meeting the definition of alloy steel, even though it was medium carbon steel, but not close enough. So where are we at now? Well, I'm thinking I will just write an opinion that it can't matter. But there's also another note, and this is the note that really got us out of jail free, and that's note number 1. And it says, all values are for product analysis percent by weight. For cast or heat analysis, use standard permissible variations as shown in SAE J409. So SAE J409 is a material standard or an analysis standard, not a fastener standard, but it allows us to fudge some elements a little bit, and sulfur is one of them. So we were able to accept this product based on the variations allowed from SAE J409. 409 is the right way to say that, sorry. And so it was an easy to solve problem. It took a little bit of going back and forth. However, what I would like to see us do is change SAE J429 to up that sulfur off of the 0.25% or 0.025%, or simply say what the variation of SAE J409 is so that the product can be accepted without having to dig into SAE J409. The other elements can have similar things that we're just not quite there. Does it really matter? Another solution would have been, let's go do a subsequent chemical analysis, which would have required what's called an OES or optical emission spectrometer test, because sulfur is not visible in our PMI X-ray diffraction test. So we need to put that in the OES machine. A little bit more expensive. And perhaps the sulfur would come in where we needed it to come in. But on the other side, it could come out higher. So we don't really know where it would be. But when you're talking about 0.025 compared to 0.027, I'm pretty sure you could do several tests and they would all be somewhere, not exactly the same, within probably more than 0.002 for sure on that. The lesson here is, first off, I was very impressed that the end user found that. Most people don't really look at their mill test reports to see that the alloy constituents comply with the standard. This end user did. And secondly, there were 2 or 3 suppliers in between. There was a manufacturer, a distributor, and the end user. And between them and me, we were able to come to a good conclusion of this product with their help. That everyone sort of contributed a little bit of intellect to the solving of this problem. And of course, we had a good end user who wanted to keep the parts in play. So that always helps as well. Well, that's a little bit to know about sulfur. There are probably about 5 other elements we could give a similar Fastener Training Minute on, and whenever we have an occasion to have a problem with one of those, we'll do that. Thank you for listening. This has been Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute.
Hi, this is Christian Reich with Global Fasteners. We are your leading rivet source, offering blind rivets, threaded inserts, and setting tools. See our extensive catalog online. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Well, the theme today is Big Fastener. That was some big news coming out of the FDI, Bri. What'd you think of that? Were you shocked?
Not really. I mean, I've been waiting for someone to get close to reality in the FDI numbers for a while. This is my reality, okay?
Right. Well, there's lots to talk about. Tim and Mike did a great job there. I'm sure people are talking about it right now, especially the disparity between the 6-month outlook and what we just got with last month's number. But it's all part of Big Fastener. And another guy who's here with us now to talk about it, that and much, much more, is somebody that we've missed having around here. We didn't know if we'd be seeing him very much going forward, but fortunately here he is. He's a friend of the podcast.
And a friend of the fastener industry.
And a big friend of the fastener industry. He's Baron Yarborough these days with Birmingham Fasteners. Hey, buddy.
How we doing today, boys?
We're doing good, thanks. Likewise, I hope.
So real quick, because how these things are recorded, what are the FDI numbers?
Oh, this month was, the July number was 46.1.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw that one. I just wanted to make sure. We were talking about the same numbers.
Well, that was the one. Yep.
Yeah.
It was a drop. And, of course, we just heard this with Mike and Tim, but first time we've had a sub 50 number since May of 2020. So there you go. Last time I talked to you at a fastener event, I remember I was carrying one of your giant, what was it? It was like a huge hex nut down the hallway of the Detroit show.
Yeah, the big 6-incher. Yeah. 6-inch, 4-pitch, big old nut. Yes, sir.
That was a little bit of a workout. Of course, everything is big in Texas, which is from where you hail. And I think a lot of people in the audience know who you are, but you've been around for a while, former president of the YFP. You're the chairman of the Southwest Fastener Association these days, and you're a new guy with Birmingham Fasteners, so you got great pedigree in this industry.
Right.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, I've been around the block or two when it comes to fastener stuff.
I forgot to mention you're in the Big Beard Club, too.
Yeah, right. That's what we've been noticing missing for the last few months. The number of red beards dropped at the fastener shows.
Yeah, but I'll be at the Southern Fastener Conference and Expo, so there will be one beard there. I know Eurolink's coming, but I don't think my bearded brother will be there. But I'm sure there's going to be a good amount of us out in Vegas.
You know, Craig Penland with Eurolink, who was also in your guild, he trimmed his. He's not quite as big bearded anymore. He's still Big Fastener, but not as big beard.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that. Okay.
Well, unless he's growing it out a little. I don't know. I don't know if that's conscious or maybe he had to go get a new driver's license photo or something. I don't know.
You know, they seem to do that. Every time you trim it, they seem to come right back at you. So you got to stay on top of it or you end up looking like a hobo, which is close to what I'm looking at like right now.
Really?
I need to get her a trim before the next time I go out into public.
Especially for us. Thank you.
But also, you know, on lifting stuff, I think you helping me out, I think that got paid back last time I was up in Ohio. My first little travel with Birmingham, I was up there and got to visit with you and see, you know, the barn, got to see right there outside the lake at your little, I don't know what you'd call that, wherever y'all had the flotilla.
Yes. It's the flotilla, the Roundup Paradise. Yeah, that's a great spot. And it was great to have you out at the barn. And you're going to be on the list of contributors. I had Carmen Vertullo out there helping me a little bit on the chicken pen right before you came. So one by one, slowly my fastener buds are making their way out there. But that was a lot of fun. Actually, you helped me clear out the trailer. And then about a week later, I used that trailer to haul all those chickens off to get them processed. And they're in the freezer now. Well, some of them are.
Some are in your belly already?
Oh, yeah.
Man, that's a great spot you have over there for real. it's always good to have, now in Ohio, if things go sideways, I have a bug out location.
You're always welcome. Yeah, well, now that you're a contributor, you got to put a little in to get anything out, but you're paid up, so don't worry.
Good deal.
Yeah, well, you actually beat me there. I haven't even been back to Ohio since bloody months.
Well, that's because you went to Australia when we were supposed to do our spring fishing, and one thing led to another. Now here we are in August, Pry.
I know. This is how the world happens.
But getting back to our visit earlier in the summer, Baron, man, you are a guy with a ton of great fastener dog stories. And you had this one about this dog that kind of came out of nowhere and then in the end kind of went off to nowhere. Can you share that on the podcast?
Oh, yes. So in college, I was coming home, and at this point I was living in the fraternity house, and I went to the back porch of it, and there was just a scared little mutt sitting on the back porch. And my wife says, that was never my dog. That was my friend. Because it wasn't that, he would go off and do his own thing. We were just buddies. Like, I'd feed him, and he would go roam the college campus. He would start off in my backyard, which had a fence, but nearly every day he would jump that, come find me on campus, and I would have to walk him home. And he just didn't stay in that fence. And then eventually when I moved, he came out with me, and he decided to jump that fence, and that was a little bit more of a country area, which I think he liked. So he decided to just be a country dog and not come home. But yeah, he was a great friend. I wouldn't consider him a pet. He was just a cool pal to hang out with. Now I have 2 fastener dogs, which I don't know how Brian does it, because the one time that I worked from home, I had a couple meetings, and in my house it was dead silent until I had to get on a Zoom call or a phone call, and then instantly my dogs were seeing something outside, wanting to go out, or mailman came by. But I don't know how y'all edit all those dog barkings out of there, because I would not like to be doing that.
You have to use the microphone mute function very frequently, okay?
You just have to know it's about to happen. The moment they start to wiggle and move, just hit that mute button.
Yeah, well, I could tell you as the guy at the board, that didn't always work, Bri, but
no, I know.
Nice try. Well, they know.
I know.
Yeah, they know when the mics go on.
Yeah, we had the same problem. But now we could have someone smash the front door down, and the dog, Sydney, wouldn't even, he'd just sit there lying over waiting to be petted, okay?
That is a great name for you with a dog, Sydney.
It is. Everyone thinks it has to be a female. To me, Sydney is a male's name, not a female's name.
Yeah, one of my high school buddies was actually named Sydney, a guy named Sydney. I was more talking about, the land down under. That was the worst accent ever, but.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Stick to Texas.
What? I don't have an accent.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
Brian's the one with the Texas accent.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, very distinct, you can tell.
So what you're doing these days, Baron, obviously you didn't really have your ear too close to the ground on the FDI, which is completely understandable. But I think we've got a little overlap going on right now because I'm building out this barn, and with Birmingham, you're kind of charged with building out a new manufacturing facility. So I bet you're making all kinds of new discoveries on what goes into a building project like that, just like I am with this barn. I tell you, man, doing everything like putting in the water system and running electric and building walls and getting tractors started and keeping chickens from killing themselves. All these things are part of my daily routine. And meanwhile, you're getting machinery, you're hiring people. Man, it's a lot of responsibility they heaped on you.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's something new every day. I mean, Champion was founded in 1983, but it's always kind of stayed a relatively small company. And now that it's a part of the Birmingham family, just looking at the market, there's a whole lot more out there. So doing the expansion made sense, and we're adding 12,000 square feet. And yeah, it's something new every day. Just dealing with the permitting process, dealing with contractors, getting concrete poured, getting land cleared, running electrical, which the electrical copper pricing is not forgiving right now. So it's a whole lot of stuff at once, but learning something new every day, and at the same time learning a new style of manufacturing. Given that my background's in exotic metal fasteners, and now I'm doing rubber gaskets. So it's a whole lot of new stuff to me, but it's awesome.
So what's the biggest unexpected headache that you've hit so far? I mean, as if you don't get one at least a day.
Yeah, daily.
Man, working on a building expansion, I think it is figuring out the code of the county you're in. Thankfully, I'm not in city limits, so it's just dealing with the county. But you could go to the county office, go into every door, and get every different answer on what's required from them. From, just make sure you have a fire extinguisher to, you didn't know you needed a detention pond. You need this, you need that. So it's really just getting everything submitted to permitting and hoping that that's everything they want. Because believe you me, I've been up there usually once a week just to be like, okay, so let's see if they're going to give me the same answer this time. So dealing with the bureaucracy, just like with anything else, is the hardest part.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised about that, to tell you the truth. I mean, as much as I've been able to, I've been tiptoeing around all that, and we've been doing things on the basis that it's an agriculture property and it's a whole new ball game if it's residential for this area that I'm in. But I have to imagine that industrial manufacturing falls into yet another category, and that's got to be fraught with all kinds of red tape.
Yeah, even out here in Texas where, we have less regulations, and, Houston itself has no zoning, but here in where I'm at, there's a bit of zoning. And when you get into that stuff, I couldn't imagine doing this in a more regulated state, just because there is already so many moving parts when you're doing an expansion. Like I already said, but when you're dealing with the machinery, okay, I'm doing a machinery expansion, buying more machines so I can better serve my customers. When's that coming in? Because that you got to get them made. They're not going to come in next day, but you got to make sure that your building is going to be built before those things come in, and all of the things you got to balance to make sure everything is on the timeline you want it to be.
Right. So assuming you can get through all this and all the unknowns finally get known, when do you expect to go online with your new facility?
We're looking at early part of 2023, upping our capacity of gaskets. So building expansion should be done at the end of this year, and then getting the machines online is going to be a little bit, changing a couple of the processes, and then it should really close to double our capacity in that market.
So I'm not at that position yet, but you'll be faced like everyone else in the United States with, you've now got the machinery. I've got to find someone to actually train and work them.
Automation.
Someone writes the program.
Thankfully, I have a great core group of guys in the facility. Most of our manufacturing employees have been here 10 to 30 years. First shift supervisor has been here for 25 years, and he's only a little bit older than me. He's in his late 30s, early 40s. However that plays out. This was his first job out of high school, and he's moved up. So I have a great set of employees here already, and with adding the more machines, there's going to be a couple more guys we have to bring on. But I don't see that much issue just given where we are. What part of Houston we're at, there's always people looking, to better themselves and who love overtime, and I like giving it out. So people who like overtime, they're going to like working for me.
Right. So then what's it like making that big change from working for a small company, which is where you were, to now working for part of a big company, which is the Birmingham, which we're very familiar with?
Yeah. Birmingham's a great company, and there have been a couple of differences going from a small company to a big company, but it's really been all positive in my case, because despite Birmingham being a great big company, it has family values. It's a family company owned by one dude. So you really get that. You see that they value their divisions functioning independently with just support from HQ. They're not looking to change it. They're looking to give the support. And if you are, pushing gaskets or in most cases bolts out the door, they are happy. So they're not going to try to, they're not going to try to recreate the wheel. They're going to let you keep going, but they're also going to anything that you've struggled with on the back end, like your accounting or your shipping things. They're just going to give you more support on that and let the company keep running. This is a little bit different because I'm heading it up. Usually when Birmingham gets in partnerships, which they've done a couple times with KT Bolt, Atlanta Rod, the management stays on. And just in this case, the main reason Champion became part of Birmingham is because Champion former owners wanted to retire. They were, in their 70s, and it just made sense for Champion. In Birmingham. Birmingham's the largest manufacturer of T-head bolts, which go in the waterworks, and these T-head bolts are used in tandem with the gaskets Champion makes. So it made sense with everyone. But when it comes to big company, small company, I've worked for big companies that are not family ran, and I do see the difference there. With this one, it's really been on the positive because of the ownership style that I still work under. I still have one boss who's the owner.
Right. There's a lot to be said for that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We've got a long relationship with Birmingham Fastener at FCH Sourcing Network. That is, we worked for many years with Jerry Warren. I know he retired. Point man over there now is Neil Gordon, and always solid guys. We've sent a lot of business their way, and they've always really been good to us. So we were really happy when we saw you sign up over there, Baron. Although I have to tell you, on the gasket side of it, we were a little nervous we wouldn't be talking to you very much going forward. But here you are, so that's good. And I know you're still with the Southwest Fastener Association, and who knows where you'll wind up, because one of the benefits of a large company being part of Big Fastener, if you will, is that there's lots of opportunities. You can wind your way up a career path and do lots of different things during that time. And that plays right into our theme today of Big Fastener, because I include Birmingham as one of those. I mean, the trend is there. You guys have snapped up a few smaller companies on your way up, manufacturing companies mostly, if I recall. But, there's a bunch of other ones I put in that same category, like AFC, Endries, certainly Worth's bought a bunch of distributors and some manufacturers. As well as the masters consolidating, like we saw with the latest, Star, and then before that, Solution. What's your overall thought on that as just sort of a journeyman fastener guy out there who talks to people on the street? I mean, this is a trend and the benefits are there, but it's a little weird too, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm going to be really interested what the vibe is like at the upcoming shows. Be it the one in Oklahoma or up in Chicago or, Big Boy in Vegas. I think people are going to be talking about it. And I think there's a big difference between a local distributor getting bought out by a big company because it's pretty easy for a salesman to decide, hey, I don't want to work for a big company, put up their own shingle and, start their own business. These master distributors consolidating, I think, I don't think it's going to affect us as much as some people think, but I think a whole lot of people are thinking, okay, here we go again. Another consolidation of master distributors is going to hurt my choices. And that's something to be worried about, depending on how, they decide to manage those master distributors as one company, keeping them separate. I'm no expert at it, but I can see why a whole lot of the local distributors get a little antsy when these things come out.
Yeah, it's a little hard because it really depends on how much overlap there really was. And I'm not sure if there's, given the Star thing, there was certainly no overlap within Stelfast, because when we dealt with Stelfast, they made sure they didn't really touch anything made of stainless. So it depends, okay?
Yeah. And also, we can look at it line by line. And I think all of the companies that are, Star, Stelfast, Lindstrom, all these brought in different products, different values. So I don't think it's much, like I said, I don't think it's much to worry about. But at the same time, it is just for the local distributor, I think it's something that they're just looking at again, here we go again type deal. Because I think since the inception of Fully Threaded Radio, we've been talking about M&A. how it's becoming more prevalent.
Yep.
So it's just something that people get a little antsy about.
Right. Well, I think it boils down to the diminishing choices that distributors have. And I kind of touched on this a little bit with Tim Roberto at the top of the episode. And of course, he's limited in what he can talk about on that. But you hear this at the shows, you hear it at the association meetings. It just makes people less comfortable when they have less choice. And that's the way of the world these days. Let's face it, everywhere you look. But one thing that Tim mentioned is, and I guess I agree with him at some level, but you'd have an opinion on this too. There are still some opportunities for startups. I mean, I know down in your neck of the woods for a while there, it was gangbusters with small guys doing studs, right, for oil and gas.
Yeah, there's always a good amount of fastener and machine shop startups here in Houston. It's the way of the beast. Either you have a good salesperson who, like I said, wants to start their own little distributor shop, or you have a machinist who wants to get going on, making their own name known and making per print parts. So you're always going to see that. And I completely agree with Tim's point is we're in America. You can always start your own business. But the people who have started their own businesses, being a local distributor, they're not looking to get in the master distribution game. So you got to find, there's always going to be room for someone to interrupt the market, disrupt the market. But at the same time, that's a way bigger endeavor than just a small distributorship. And really, there might not be a need for it, if everyone keeps going good. But yeah, I completely get the lack of choices. Oh, now I have to put all my eggs in this same basket type mentality that I'm sure y'all have heard, I've heard, and I'm sure we're going to continue to hear as these things come out, that small distributors don't want to be seeing this, but it's the way of the fastener industry.
Yeah, and your point about nobody wants to get into the master distribution side of it, I've often thought, and this is somebody who kind of casually, unexpectedly came into this business, such as I am in it, and making the observation that the master distributors are really also, or probably mainly, master importers, right? So
Right.
the way of the world today and the trends, the way they could be going, maybe that's going to shift. Maybe it's less importation and more just working out how domestically manufactured things are distributed. However that works out, it looks tumultuous and it seems like it's filled with opportunities.
I mean, that is Birmingham's big focus point is U.S. manufacturing. That's why Champion is here. We're, to be the top gasket manufacturer is, our goal. And that's the goal for all of the Birmingham hubs is, we focus on manufacturing in the waterworks industry, the structural. So, and that's the big point with us. We don't try to get in the import game, and we would like to see as much stuff that possibly can be made in the U.S. be made in the U.S. So figuring out how to, get your costs down, get your deliveries up, and get your capacity up. And I think that, we were talking, the market was talking about this years ago is, U.S. manufacturing isn't ready to bring all this stuff home. But I think the past 2 years have shown us that we can get ready. So keep pushing it and keep building up your capacity and figure out ways to be more agile, more efficient. And the guy who talks about nearshoring and reshoring, Harry Mosier, brings up great points about how to get us there, looking at total cost. And that's our big focus at Birmingham as a whole is everything that we can manufacture or get manufactured here in the States. That's what we're going to do.
Well, we're in favor of that, okay?
I like it. You mentioned the Oklahoma event a little while back, Baron, and you really didn't explain what you were discussing.
Sounded like there's some shift in the universe or something.
You're the chairman of the Southwest Fastener Association, so your opportunity to plug that is right here.
Oh, so yeah, September 28th and through 30th is the Southern Fastener Conference and Expo, and it's going to be at Choctaw Casino in Durant, Oklahoma. So right there in the middle of everything, so everyone can come. It's looking like it's going to be a great event. We have some great speakers on deck. good discussions, good golf, and good networking opportunities. So I think it's going to be a great event with a whole lot of opportunity to meet new customers and new vendors. There's going to be people attending this show that, usually don't come out to the Vegas show or up north or things like that.
Okay.
Here's your opportunity to network with some of those guys. Well, that's what the association conferences are just great for. It is a unique opportunity, and that's your niche. At one point, I think I heard talk swirling around, and I won't attribute it to any one particular individual, but is there any progress in the idea of unifying the Southeast and the Southwest?
Man, that's up to the boards. I have I have a dog in that game, but talking about consolidations on companies, that's something that many people on both parties' membership has discussed. That would be a pretty big area, but I think anything's possible when it comes to that. I think both the Southwestern Fastener Association and CFA Southeastern have a whole lot of great points, a whole lot of good value points. And it's a great market down here in the South in general, be you, Texas or more in the Florida side or anywhere in the South. There's a whole lot of opportunity for the companies that are associated with both. So if that's, something to be discussed, I'm sure it will be discussed.
Okay, you're going to hold your cards close on that one.
Right.
Well, from an administrative side, I could see it makes sense, but this is always the conundrum that the regionals have. You like to keep things local so you can all meet up for a cocktail occasionally. But on the other hand, if you're too small, then it makes it sort of unwieldy to do it that way. But, well, we'll just stay tuned and see what the forces of Big Fastener bring to that subject.
Correct.
Yeah. More big fasteners, more big associations, I suppose.
Where do people register for that event?
You can go to the website. I know that we're doing email marketing, and you can also go to any social media and see links to it. If you just search Southwestern Fastener Association, you can find it on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, nearly everywhere. But our website, southwesternfasteners.org, you can go to events and register right there.
Sounds good. And presumably you are offering special Texas elocution lessons for your new implants in Texas so they can blend in properly.
That's actually a whole session during the conference is how to be and speak Texan. And it's mainly geared towards our new Cali brethren.
Yeah, right.
Brian, sounds like there's an opportunity for you. You ought to sign him up right now, Barron.
Yeah, I know.
I could seminar on that.
Yeah, I was about to say, Brian, you come down, you can be a teacher for us. Industry expert of Texas.
Right.
Lifetime honorary Texan that he is. And we've been talking with an actual valid Texan, Barron Yarborough with Birmingham Fastener. It's always great to talk to you, amigo, and we'll look forward to seeing you out there in Vegas, I guess. I don't think I'll be making it out to Oklahoma, but thanks for all your friendship over the years, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you down the road.
Right, and we wish you great luck in your building project, okay?
Yeah, thank you all, gentlemen.
Hey, matey, see you at the next show.
Yes, sir.
That'll put a big stop to this conversation, but don't worry, there's more fully threaded radio coming up, everyone. Thanks for clicking in.
In continued efforts to improve the industry standard, Goebel Fasteners has developed a patented new multi-grip lock bolt system made completely from T304 stainless steel. In applications where an extensive grip range is needed and a consistent flush pin break to the collar is favorable, the Goebel T304 stainless steel lock bolt system is the new and improved standard in the market. Essentially, the T304 stainless steel lock bolt system's extensive grip range and various sizes can replace up to 14 sizes of the classic 6-groove locking fastener system. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
So, you're in the fastener industry, and your distribution software isn't quite cutting it. You need software that can do accounting, manufacturing, CRM, forecasting, procurement, sales, kitting, rework, wireless warehouse management, barcoding, labeling, formatting, mobile apps, websites, and more. Wow, right? What you need is the #1 manufacturing and distribution software for the fastener industry, InSequel. InSequel provides a full suite of applications written and supported by InSequel, not to mention software support that is unmatched by anyone in the industry. InSequel works with you, not at you. Don't be just another sale. Be a partner with InSequel. Contact us today at insequel.com. That's INXSQL.com.
Brighton Best International stocks one of the largest and most diverse lines of construction, industrial, safety, and consumable products in the world through our preferred Ironclad and U.S. Anchor brands. We are committed to providing high-quality products to help get the job done right. The award-winning preferred brand line of products from BBI include hand tools, cutting tools, abrasives, rivets, and drywall screws. Ironclad gloves are the industry leaders with more than 100 task-specific, high-quality PPE gloves covering cut, impact, cold, heat, water, abrasion, grip, and dexterity, receiving the 2018 Occupational Health and Safety Award for New Product of the Year. With our trained sales team members, competitive pricing, 20-plus national warehouses, and next-day service to all major population centers, BBI is committed to bringing quality, innovation, and safety to each and every job site.
Charlie Kerr from Kerr Lakeside here. You are listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you to close out another one.
Yes.
Well, it was good to talk to Baron. Didn't know if we'd be hearing his voice on the podcast again, but it looks like he's here to stay, which is a good thing.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I didn't really know that he was going to break the news about your new farming endeavor.
Yeah, well, that's something I was probably going to work into the show eventually, but I've been doing a lot of work out there, and I'll just leave it at that for the minute. But I will say that one of the things that has come with this whole thing is an array of fastener bins, Bri. I mean, the upstairs, I've got a whole ton of hardware and stuff. And when Carmen was out there, man, he couldn't believe it. It was like a fantasy world for him,
Yeah, mine's very boring. Lynn is always completely annoyed by it, but I've got boxes of anchors, boxes of electrical stuff, boxes of screws. On farming, you need a lot more than I need, okay?
It looks kind of like the back office of a Tractor Supply up there. Anyway, we'll be talking about that a little bit more. Thanks, Baron, for doing that. Baron Yarborough, Birmingham Fastener. He was our guest on the podcast today, as was Mr. Tim Roberto Jr. of Star Stainless Screw. Sounds like we'll be hearing from him on an ongoing basis as well, which is great news.
Good.
Good luck to Lindfast and Star. It was good of him to join us and give us a little bit more. I'm sure there will be details coming out as time goes on, but we know where we stand for the moment.
All right.
Solution Industries' Tim Vath sat in with Mike McNulty today on the Fastener News Report. Good job, gentlemen. Pretty sure we'll be seeing both of you out in Chicago next week. And Carmen Vertullo had the Fastener Training Minute. Don't forget, folks, he's got this great mentorship program that he's offering. It's going to start on October 7th. Carmen's easy to reach. If you can't find him, get him through us. We'll connect you.
Right. And you remember, you can always go back and listen or read, the Fastener Training Minutes on news.fastenersclearinghouse.com. All of his Fastener Training Minutes are out there.
There is a ginormous archive of that stuff, courtesy of you, Brian, and courtesy of our fine sponsors. This podcast comes to you. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Tested, Try True, Brighton Best, Goebel Fasteners, Quality the First Time, Goebel, and Star Stainless Screw. right off the shelf. It's Star. Fully Threaded is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, the International Fastener Expo, ND Industries, Parker Fasteners, Solution Industries, Stelfast, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, and Worth Industry North America. Let us know what you think of the podcast, everyone. We always enjoy your comments and suggestions. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. We're off to Fastener Week in Chicago, everybody. That's the week with no vowels, for those of you following along, as George Hunt III calls it.
Yeah, thinking of that.
Of course, he, along with Bob GQ Bear and a whole group of others, will be meeting up on Saturday before Fastener Week to participate in the Rugged Maniac race. Everybody's prepping up for that. We've got a few injuries that have taken some people out, which is too bad, but we'll have a great time. Bri, you'll be out there. Carmen's going to be joining us to cheer us on. It should be a blast.
Yeah, we'll have fun. Maybe it's slightly wet. Depends on when it's going to happen. Better than the searing heat we've had here of late, though, I have to say.
I'll take a little sprinkle over searing Chicago heat any day, especially on this 5K 20 obstacle event.
Yeah.
But we'll take what we get, and it'll be fun one way or another. So hopefully we'll see you out there, folks, at the Midwest event sometime during the week. And if not, we'll be back with you with a special report with some sound. The lovely and talented Lynn Dempsey, of course, will be joining us, and she does her thing at all these events, and look forward to that.
Right.
And we'll look forward to talking to you next time. Thanks so much for clicking into this one.
And I hope the next episode isn't quite as big as this, okay?
Yeah, that's a good point. I could take a little...
downsize.
Yeah, downsize in the headlines too. You know, just a little stability would be nice.
Yeah, right. Let's go back to boring old normal, okay?
Who would have thought the fastener industry would be this exciting? Hey, everybody, for Brian Musker, thanks for clicking in. Until next time, it's Eric Dudas. Get out there, sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next time.
Next time.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fasteners Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.